Hi, welcome. This is Bryan Emerson, and this is my report on a business idea for China and Vietnam markets for International Business 600 and the International Field Study Program of Washington State University. In this presentation, I'll start with an introduction and let you get to know more about second-generation air conditioning. Next, I'll discuss the opportunity. I'll discuss the need for this innovation and the countries that could possibly benefit, even outside the Chinese and Vietnamese markets. I will define the innovation's attributes and retrofit plans, and I will discuss some of the risks and challenges. Should we partner with China? Should we partner with Vietnam? What are the social and economic barriers that we learned about on our trip in field study? So first, I'll define the idea. This is an innovation and a business opportunity that consists of an exterior-mounted retrofit air conditioning system with solar energy storage, a ground pump heat dispersion system, and air scrubbing technology. While in China, I was struck by all of the air conditioning units hanging out of buildings in every alley and every freeway. They were visible everywhere, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them, hanging off each individual window, one per unit, all humming away. We need to get rid of this one unit per building strategy, because as the Chinese gain economic power, they're each going to want to keep their environments cooler. In 2013, there were 64 million air conditioners sold in China, more than 8 times as many as in the US. In China, sales of air conditioners have nearly doubled over the last 5 years. Global temperatures are rising in the cities, especially because all of these units are pushing hot air straight into the alleys and into the city air. The next unit has to take that air and try to push it through its operating cycle and also get rid of that same hot air. The incomes are also increasing demand because more people can afford air conditioning and really want to live with it. A disruptive innovation is needed as prices are dropping on the current innovations, and it's creating a massive energy spike. This graph, which is referenced in my sources, shows that India will by far have the largest demand because they have the most people who can afford air conditioning and the hottest weather for the most days each year. Next, China and Indonesia fall into place right under India. You can see that Vietnam is next to the United States in terms of demand, but they are not fully developed as a country yet, nor are China, India, or Indonesia. Several countries will create additional demand, pushing the energy needs up for all of this air conditioning structure. Here's the current design of an air conditioner that sits in a window unit. These are the styles that we see all over China and Vietnam. This design was actually invented in the late 1960s and never has changed. It's an inefficient cooling design where a fan pushes hot air that's compressed, trying to remove the hot air from the system. There's a blower inside moving air, there's a fan outside moving air, and compressed Freon cools the air, or R12, in more modern units. The compressor, fan, and blower are single failure points, and they're massive energy hogs. And in addition to this, the current design does not provide any form of air scrubbing or air filtration outside of just a media-based, like sponge-style filter. Here's the new design. This is similar to air-mounted units now. However, the unit is moved down to the ground level, here, where the heat pump would actually disperse and exchange heat with the cooler ground level. A solar roof would provide and store energy in a battery compartment. The green power would actually power the individual window units as well as the heat pump unit, or at least part of the heat pump unit until technologies improve in solar power. The battery can store energy for cloudy days or rainy days, but those days won't have the same demand on the air conditioning system as an extremely sunny day. Interestingly, this theory should work well because the sunnier and hotter it is, the more solar energy provided to the battery packs to run the air conditioning units on that extraordinarily hot day. The heat pump will be a shared and modular design. It can share its cooling properties with each individual air handling unit that will be retrofit into windows. The heating and cooling runs will run parallel to the power runs, so one singular chamber can actually be run down the back of each building between the windows. This can be done in nice color-coded ducting or under faux stone to try to hide the ducting and increase the value of the building because its aesthetics will be much more pleasing than a big brick style air conditioner hanging out each window. In this drawing, this setup would be replicated for each one of these unit pieces. Here's one of the critical components. This is the new style window unit. The cooling fluid and heat return would again run down into the ground-mounted system. The power would be provided by the solar panel. There would be a 4-fan brushless fan array up in the front of the unit. This would actually increase the longevity and the reliability of the unit, giving a redundancy because there would be more than one fan. The entire chamber would be sealed so that you can actually do some air scrubbing between the two chambers. And as technologies improve, this too could be a modular section that we could remove the current air scrubbing technology and put something in better to try to remove some of the pollution from the incoming air. The other nice thing about this is a box air conditioner would take up much more space than shown here in this drawing. We can actually bring the window down further as this U shape will hang over the wall. The majority of this should hang out over the wall on the outside, but have a very small footprint on the inside. In terms of opportunity, why is this a good idea? Well, it's an original idea. No other manufacturer has a similar design to this retrofit idea. Next, it's a fairly inexpensive design, particularly if all of the modular units can be built in a way that would be retrofit with one similar style. Next, this design clearly would save a lot of energy, which is the goal of the project, and why so many people should buy in to help save the environment. America currently uses more air conditioning than the rest of the world combined, but that could change very shortly. I did some research into that statement, and the reason why is we keep our offices and our homes much cooler than they do in China. In China and Vietnam, if they cool their units, they usually are trying to keep it around 75 to 78 degrees, whereas in the United States, we may be trying to keep it closer to 70 to 72. My mother-in-law's house actually is 68, which is incredible, and probably not even possible with the current structure in China and Vietnam. So in terms of innovation, this product innovation is made to improve the power consumption of each one of these countries and the personal comfort of the people that live there. It's an architectural innovation that changes and replaces in its entirety the dated and prior AC design. This is an incremental innovation, as some buildings will still actually have the old style units, particularly if they're only cooling one small space or it's a detached building. But this is a disruptive innovation, as all other designs are difficult to install, they don't cool efficiently, and they completely cover the one window that many of these people have in their dwelling. So our risks, well, one, it's very expensive to retrofit. You're going to have to do some time studies and show that time will worsen with the current design. The other problem is the more of these they get in place that are not energy efficient will lead to brownouts, much like they do in India. When hot days hit in India, the power consumption hits so hard that the current infrastructure can't keep up with the air conditioning systems, dropping the voltage to a very dangerous phase. This ruins a lot of computers and personal electronics, and it'll actually take out a power grid if it's so bad enough. Should we collaborate with these countries? Yes, particularly with China. In our visit, we learned about the business types, and we definitely learned that the government will want a hand in this because of the scale. One of the arguments for this is that it would be very expensive to move US-made product over to China. China does have excellent manufacturing facilities, and the government will have a huge interest in this if it's successful, as they'll be producing a lot of units, they'll be saving a lot of power, and they'll be helping their people. Will it be favored politically? Yes. I think that global warming, energy consumption, human conditions, environment, and the need for innovation are all in line with this project. And I think a lot of people would really enjoy having comfortable spots and saving energy. A strategy to safeguard the ideas, well, first to market could help. If our design is just heads and shoulders above the rest, people will actually ask for it by name. We could employ some patents. And last, if none of that stuff works, simple goodwill. I mean, if it's knocked off, other companies take the idea and run with it, we can compete with them. However, just having these people have a better environment and trying to help with the energy crisis, the goodwill efforts there might actually help people move back to our company, as long as we try to keep the pricing appropriate and the people and the customer first. Forward progress with modular designs. What I mean by that is if we build this thing in a modular, like a blade style design, as things improve for the solar batteries, the solar power, the air scrubber, the heat exchanger, we'll be able to pull out a module and replace it with a module. In addition, in units where not all occupants would have air conditioning day one, if we build it in a modular design, they could turn up 1/3 the power of the unit, and then another third, and then another third. So that would give some flexibility to the installation and to the expense for the project. So here are some sources. I have more available from my talk. Did quite a bit of reading on this and took a lot of pictures of air conditioners while visiting China and Vietnam. Certainly the heat was there and the conditions were met where somebody needs to build a better air conditioning and air handling system. So I hope that idea sticks, and I hope somebody will send me some venture capital money, and we'll get this thing seeded and built and spread all over the world. Thank you.